hopefully it'll ask you to approve that you're going to be videoed, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. Okay, so last week we spoke about how digital is affecting our businesses and how it's affecting us in a competitive position and environment, and basically looking at all of the things that are basically going on in the digital world, and seeing how they all fit together and how they are not only affecting our kind of position and how we get our message out there, but are affecting this competitive environment. So we have new entrants coming in and starting different services which are competing against us. We have new ways to get to market. The small guys can get involved in attacking the big guys, and the big guys are fighting back and basically taking over the world. You know, if you look at Amazon and so forth, it's quite frightening how they are taking over the retail world. Their model is quite frightening, in actual fact. Presumably both of you use Amazon a lot. Certainly over the last 12 months, we've all been using it, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is quite scary, and it's really interesting that in the retail space, Google has noticed this over the last few years, and I should imagine that the last year or so it's been even worse, is that people aren't Googling products and stuff like that. They are going straight to Amazon. So if you're looking for you know, a 4-way mains extension lead, you're not going to Google for that. You're going straight to Amazon. And it's a huge issue with a lot of organizations because it's just changed the way they shop. My wife and I ran a small toy shop for a while, and you know, we ran it as a website. We didn't have it as a physical store because we just couldn't justify it as a physical store. So we ran it as an online store for a while. Actually, for a while, it was about 6 years, and we started towards the end selling stuff on Amazon, and because you can sell it on Amazon as an Amazon marketplace, you can say, I've got loads of stuff. I want to use Amazon as my shop front to sell this stuff. And we had a line that we were really, really keen on, which was a cardboard colour-in castle. So for about a 7 or 8 year old, you give them this castle, and it would be like a kind of an origami thing. They'd build a castle, and it would have felt tip pens with it, and you could colour it in and make your own little castle, which is quite cool. And they did a fairy castle, and they did a kind of a knight's castle, and they did a few other bits and pieces as well. And we were selling loads of these, and we were selling loads of them through Amazon. We were selling, you know, 10, 15 a day through Amazon, which we thought was brilliant. It's a lot of money for us coming through there. And then all of a sudden, instantly, the sales just stopped. We just didn't sell anymore. And we couldn't work out what was going on. And what happened was that obviously Amazon had tracked all these sales that were happening through Marketplace, realized that we were making quite a large amount of money, and they thought we want a bit more of that than we're just getting in referral fee. So they went obviously to the supplier and said, you know, we want, you know, a small warehouse full of these things, and they were then selling them at less than our cost price. And they used the information they were getting from our sales in order to compete against us, which was rather horrible,
isn't it?
Is that legal?
Not very nice.
Can they do that? Is it legal?
It's perfectly legal. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you sign the terms and conditions. The sales processing and financial processing goes through their systems and so forth, and so, you know, they can do what they like with the information which is on their system. It's incredibly sneaky. Absolutely, it's appalling.
I try to not use Amazon actually now. If I can, I'll try to go to smaller businesses. Like I will use Google, but that's because I was using Amazon so much that I want to move away from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it depends for us. Like my husband, I mean, we only have one Amazon account, and it's his that we go through. And he sells stuff on eBay as well. But to be honest, when I shop, I tend to go to either businesses that I particularly like because they're sustainable, small, and I tend to use those ones direct.
Yeah.
But actually, one of my main places that I look for stuff, whether it's jewelry, presents, sometimes even clothing or whatever, I use Etsy.
Yep.
I love Etsy.
Yeah, I was about to say Etsy is great in that respect. And the big problem that small businesses like our business had, which was called Laughing Bear Toys, the reason why we had so much issues is that because basically places like Amazon and even to an extent Etsy, which wasn't around when we were doing our shop, have absorbed all of the kind of the visibility, all of the kind of brain space that we have. Oh, I need a thing. I'll check on Etsy, or I'll check on Amazon, or I'll or whatever, or I'll Google it. And then when you go on to Google, then most of the things are coming from Etsy or Amazon anyway. So you end up with with the product search now on Google. Basically, everything is now Amazon. Top bar is pretty much entirely Amazon stuff, which is really kind of a big issue. And it's really an interesting thing that when way back 20 odd years ago, when we were starting to talk about e-commerce in a big way online, we were all saying, oh, this is leveling the playing field. The small guys can come along and they can can compete against the big guys, the big chain stores and everything else, and going to be taking up the small, nimble, personalized service kind of organizations like me and my wife were, can take a big chunk out of these guys, these impersonal, big box organizations and stuff like this. And it did for a while. And Google helped us a lot in that respect in the early stages. But now it's the pendulum has swung, even further the other way, to the point where you've got just vast organizations like Amazon who just are almost the default for a very large percentage of what we buy. Last week we talked about Watersons and stuff like this. The books, which is where Amazon started, is probably a tiny, trivial part of their business now because, the number of other things they do. And the other interesting thing that, of course, Amazon have done is Amazon Prime. Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the other thing you get with Amazon Prime is the TV as well. Oh, well, do you then say, I don't want to use Amazon anymore? Well, in which case you'll getting Amazon Prime just for the TV. And would you think, well, 79, 80 quid a year for just the TV, is that worth it? There's some good stuff on there, but there's a lot of dross on there. But you've got Amazon Prime sitting there and you think, well, I'm going to a small independent or seller and they're going to charge me $4.99 for postage on top of the price, which is already a similar price to Amazon anyway. So this sale is going to cost me like an extra $5. You think, well, I could get the same thing from Amazon. I want to support the small guys, but a $5 is a $5, and you multiply a $5 by 4 or 5 times a week, which is what we're buying at the moment. That's a large wedge of cash. And unfortunately, we then put our morals to the side and our principles to the side, and just basically go, oh, I have to do it, aren't I? I'm going to have to go for the Amazon because I've already paid essentially for the postage from Amazon. So
the guaranteed next day delivery as well with Prime is it's unbeatable, isn't it?
Well, it is, absolutely. I mean, when we started our online business, we were up against paper catalogs, and people would actually be sending out paper catalogs, and people would flick through paper catalogs, the old Argos catalog, and people were sort of offering 28 days delivery. I mean, you guys probably can't imagine what would happen in this episode. 28 days delivery? What the hell's going on there? And we were offering next day dispatch. We couldn't offer next day delivery, but we'd offer next day dispatch. And we stole a march on a lot of people because we could actually do that next day dispatch because we had the stuff in stock, and we would just, I would come home from work. I was still running another job at the time. Come home from work, do all the packing until about 10 o'clock at night, and then go off to my local post office and drop all the stuff off at the local post office and everything else the next morning on my way to work. So we could do it. It was hard work, but we could do it. And that's now, you expect stuff, this instantaneousness. We need that instantaneous nature. If someone's taken our money, then we want the goods straight away.
They also, which is what we do as well, is you could subscribe to, say, for example, every 3 months you get, we get most of our cleaning products and stuff like that, and even like dog treats and things.
Yeah.
You get it all, and you can just subscribe, and you don't really have to think about it, and you know that your loo roll is going to turn up in 3 months, big batch of it, and then you don't have to think about it for however many months.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, we were talking about Cornerstone last week, which is the razor blades, the men's razor blades things, and they turn up just in time for when you need them, which is great. And the same with the instant ink for the printer behind me. It's you know, those kind of things are also changing the way that we buy stuff and changing the competitive landscape, and other organizations are taking over. But of course, one of the key things that we've got to think about is that, yeah, this is how businesses work and so forth. But really, what we need to understand is the customer, and the customer is not just king, but is actually absolutely and utterly crucial to our organizations, because we need to understand the customer. And this is why we talk about persona of our customer and understanding who they are, what they do, and all the kind of information that we need about those people. Again, within our business, we started off, we were really kind of learning at the very beginning. We're talking 2004, 2005. So, you know, quite a long time ago now in e-commerce terms. It was, you know, really, really early on in the e-commerce world we were involved in this. And we made some key mistakes at the beginning there. And one of the things that we made the mistake was that we structured our site, and we structured our sales, and I structured our processes and everything else to make it easy for us. So we would have categories on our website, which were the brand names of the products and so forth. And we very quickly learned that in actual fact, that's not how customers buy. Customers buy differently to the way we wanted to sell. And this is the same with all businesses. You know, businesses we have within you know, business to business environments and so forth. We have a lot of people who are very kind of, you know, our businesses are silos. We have a group of people who do one thing. We have another group of people who do another thing. We have another group of people who do something else. And so we structure our business around the management structures and the organization charts and so forth. And when it comes to our websites, we quite often do the same. You know, we structure our website around, oh, this is the products that we sell. Here's the products in silo A, here's the products in silo B, and here's the products in silo C. And we kind of forget that that's not how customers buy. That's not how customers think about us. They don't search for, you know, a department or whatever. They search to solve their problem. And it's really absolutely crucial that we understand how they work and how they think and how they operate and how they search and how they want to interact with us, rather than trying to impose our structure on them. Have either of you heard of SAS software, SAS?
Yes.
The tone there indicates really that you know exactly what I'm going to say now.
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've not come across it.
Oh, you are so lucky. You are so lucky.
Okay.
Basically, if an organization implements SaaS within itself, you get a whole bunch of very, very expensive consultants come along on £1,000 a day. These consultants come in, and basically they tell you that in order for SaaS to work, you have to restructure your entire business to fit their software. And their software has a particular way of working. And if your current purchasing systems, your current procurement systems, your current invoicing systems, your current billing structures, your current support systems and so forth don't fit with SaaS, then you have to change.
That wouldn't work at my firm. Yeah, I suppose that's the upside of working with their sort of, well, they're moving to a sort of more modern outlook on things. But yeah, I mean, change is not something that comes easy at a sort of more traditional firm.
So would you agree that that's how SaaS works within an organization?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess my company sort of sells SaaS like for other companies for like their clinical trials. So we sell the software for that. So I guess it's, if you know, when they adopt our programs for clinical trials, and then they have to sort of restructure things, and we try to claim that it's, you know, it's better for them, it's better for the patients, and everything.
Yeah, but basically what's happening is that, and SaaS is an example of how what we try and do when we're online, when we're trying to market online, we try and fit the customer into what we want to do. And in actual fact, what we should be doing is looking at the customer, understanding what the customer needs, the customer's pleasure and pain points, and how they want to work, and structure. And so we need insights into the customer. You see, there was a point to this slide, in the title of this slide, the customer insights. And we really need to find a lot of information about our customers, and not just data. The demographic stuff. Our customers are 35 to 45s, AB1s. They have typical earning of this. They are 60% male, 40% female, whatever it happens to be. What we also need to know is their kind of behavioral stuff, the softer, fluffier stuff of what they are like. So for example, if you're talking to a group of people who are mainly male, mainly middle-aged, degree educated and stuff like this, then probably TikTok and Instagram aren't necessarily the channels that you want to go for, because they aren't the channels that are going to be looking for their stuff on. They're going to be heavily into their Facebook, and they're heavily into their LinkedIn. And this is the kind of things that we can actually identify very rapidly by looking at those kind of pieces of information about them, understanding the behaviors of those kind of groups of people, and then that really drives how we market, and where we market, and what channels we market to. And things like the pleasure and pain points that they have really tell us what we have to do throughout the customer journey. So, for example, they may not necessarily know that they need us. So Loretta, somebody who's working in a small startup doing software development or whatever, may not necessarily know that they need you as an organization, because they're software developers. What do they need lawyers for? So at that point, you have to look at some kind of educative marketing first, to explain to them that in actual fact, this stuff is absolutely crucial. And if they get it wrong, it can be massively expensive, to the point of not only losing the business, but in terms of losing literally everything if they get it wrong. And so then you say, well, we need to let them know that we exist, and not only that we exist, but also that the problem that we are here to solve exists. And how we do in terms of data solutions for trials, how we make sure that the data is correct, and how we make sure that everything is structured, and so that therefore when we're going through the approvals process, we have all of our ducks lined up, and so forth. So how do we educate the customers that these things exist and that they need these things before they even come to the point of who do they buy it from? They need to know that they need to buy something. That can be quite an interesting point within understanding users and so forth. But the key thing about a lot of this is that we have so much data and so much information around. We can just get swamped by this information. What we need to do as marketers is to be able to take our experience, our understanding, and act as a really, really clear filter for this information, to turn it into some actionable insights and actionable knowledge about that. What does it actually mean? And certainly for the assignment in particular, but also for your real lives, it's not a case of just listing out just the facts. It's actually, and what does that mean? Because of that, what do we have to do to address those customer needs? How do we address what's going on from these facts? And this is an absolutely crucial thing. So have either of you actually done personas for your basic customers?
Not properly within the firm, as in not me, and not properly, but it is, I guess it's something that we, as I said, not a proper persona, but we do obviously look at who our customers are, and because we have such a broad range. I mean, you've got other firms, and then you have startups, and you've got so many different areas. But not, certainly not while I've been there have we done a sort of persona task. Absolutely,
and I mean, for you, Loretta, you're probably going to be looking at having multiple personas, because you've got different services that you want to offer, different organizations at different points within their life cycle, different points with their size within their market sectors and so forth. So you may have, you may need actually a whole kind of, portfolio of personas.
Yeah.
Horribly alliterative there, but you know what I mean. You need a group of people so that you can say, right, okay, we're going to do a marketing campaign to software developer startups. Okay, software developer startups. These are the kind of people. These are the kind of channels they're using. These are the kind of things they're doing. These are the kind of pain points that we want to address with these people, and that then drives the messaging and the channel and the techniques and the technologies that you're using to market to those guys. Another group, and you may say, well, that's a completely different persona in there, so we need to do different things with different channels, with different messaging, with different deliverables, with different calls to action, because they're different people. And it's really important when we're looking at this to be very, very customer focused. Every organization in the world says we are customer focused. Most of them are lying.
Yeah.
What you need to do is to understand who your customer is and what your customer is doing and needing, and whether they are searching for your stuff, in which case how are they searching, where are they getting their information from, are they getting it from their peers, are they getting it through Google, are they getting it through osmosis, what is the way that they capture their information, where they do their research and so forth. So we actually get some understanding of what's going on in that respect.
Yeah, I guess we capture a lot of the information. It's just that we haven't done, a sort of sat down and gone, right, this is, who you are.
One of the interesting things there, you say you capture a lot of information, and a lot of information that you can have from internally to say, this is our customers, these are our customer groups and so forth, is that is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy going on there, because these are our existing kind of customers.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that scared me.
Absolutely. Let's wait for Loretta to come back. Say if you're okay, Loretta, for me carry on. I don't want to distract. Okay, I'm going to assume we're okay now. Yeah, it could be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because you have a database of your existing customer types.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. So you have this database, you have all your customers on your database, and you go, yeah, right, fantastic. We can look at the demographics of our existing customers. Great, we now know who they are and how to market to them and stuff like this. But what you don't know about is the people who aren't your customers, people who don't know you exist, don't know that they have a problem, and so therefore have never looked for a company to support that problem. Are they similar to your existing customers? You need to ask that critically. Sometimes they are. Sometimes you can actually say, yeah, we've critically examined them, and our existing customer base is a very good representative sample of the overall population. But in those kind of small niche areas, it can sometimes be that you are not necessarily, or you can't prove that you are representative. Your existing customers are representative of your potential customers. So you need to get a lot more of kind of external information to actually find out what's going on in the world. And so we have different kinds of information that you need to talk about. So you need to sort of say, we've got some factual information. So we've got some, information that you can capture from internal systems, from your CRM system, from, external research materials and so forth. They're very factual. This market is expanding by this amount. There are this many companies of this size in this area. There are this many companies working in this particular business sector, judging by the business codes, which are captured by all sorts of organizations and so forth. So you can actually identify what's going on in there, and you can get information about your competitors. You can get some quite good information. They will have annual reports, and you can study their annual reports, and you can say, oh, right, they've got this many customers and they've got this much income, therefore they're getting this much income per customer. How does that compare to us? Are we getting a comparative level of income from our customers to their customers? So are we working in the same fields? Because they have to report this, particularly if they're a publicly listed company and they've got shareholders, they have to report a hell of a lot of really quite secretive information to their shareholders. which you can read because the annual reports are publicly available. They can be fascinating pieces of information when you're looking at stuff, and you can actually understand what they're doing. You can steal quite a lot of external market research by reading your competitors' annual reports.
How does that work though? If you've got, I mean, so obviously with law firms, professional services firms, they tend to be partnerships, so that information cut off, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's
Search company's house, but it's but yeah, there's not much information there. What I found anyway.
No, absolutely, and I mean that is a problem within your sector in that because they are limited liability partnership LLPs. Usually, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't have to publish quite as much information as a PLC or a limited has to publish because their shareholders are internal. However, a lot of them have got egos the size of planets, and they will be going to conferences, and they will be talking a lot at conferences about a lot of the things that they're doing. And you can find out a lot of information from them because they have very loose lips, especially when they're standing on a stage and there's 500-600 people watching them and listening to them. They will often say a lot of things that they probably wouldn't be best advised to say because there's a lot of nuggets of really kind of interesting gold in what they sometimes say in these things. They say, oh, we're finding out that we're getting a lot of this. Oh, that's interesting. So why aren't we finding the same kind of things? But as you say, they will have some information on Company House, and you can start to glean some things because you yourselves will have similar reports that you're producing for your Company House reports as well. And you can say, well, how are we looking compared to their numbers, and how are our numbers looking compared to theirs, and so on. So you can actually get a little bit of comparative information out of that, which is quite interesting. There'll be external companies, third-party companies will be Gartner and people like that be saying, the market for X is predicted to be Y, millions of dollars and so forth. You can say, well, we are hopefully going to be one of the top 5 or top 10. We should be looking at what kind of percentage of that amount, what kind of predictive amounts we can get out of that. So we can look at this kind of doing some comparative predictive stuff in here as well. So, but those are factual things. These are kind of hard numbers. These are the kind of the really quantitative stuff that we can actually pull out of various places. When you're doing this kind of stuff for your assignments and stuff like that, Loretta, if it's not available because your LLPs, state that and just state that it is hard to get this information because our competitors are LLPs and therefore this information is not publicly available. It's not in the public domain.
Okay.
You don't have to have everything, but if you understand that and you can explain to them, I don't know what their market share is because it's not publicly available, and you can't be expected to know stuff which is not, you'd actually need to bribe someone in their companies to find. You're not going to make any kind of assumptions about that kind of stuff. Then you have this is the quantitative stuff. We now need to look at some of the qualitative stuff. And this is the soft, fluffy stuff, and the whys and the hows kind of things. The other stuff is the whats, and this is very much the why and the how going on in here. And then you need to really get inside the head of your customer, and this is absolutely crucial to try and think like a customer. When you're marketing to a customer, the best thing to do is to think like a customer. And there's the interesting thing within this, it is, obviously both of you've got partners and so forth, and so you're on the dating scenes and everything else, but you probably would have been through that at some point. We've all been there and all had those painful memories. What we're looking to do here is to kind of build that relationship between ourselves and the customer in a kind of almost a speed dating kind of way, where we can say, we understand you, we know you, we empathize with you. And the key thing there is to get the customer nodding and going, oh, yeah, this company kind of knows what's going on. This company understands me. This company thinks like I think. This company can help me. I'm going to continue to spend money with them. And you get the momentum of the head nodding with the customer. And then you go, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to sign a contract with these people because they know me and I like them. I trust them. I did a lot of business in the Middle East a very long time ago, which was fun, exciting. There's a lot of war stories in there. I got mistaken for an arms dealer once in a hotel in Jordan, which was just kind of interesting. And the Middle East, I don't know if you know, have either of you ever done any work in the Middle East and Southern Europe and stuff like this?
Not really.
No. The way to do sales and consultative work out there is incredibly different from over here. If you are, if you're looking at the North European kind of models or the American kind of models that we as British people tend to look at, it's very, very hard. It's fast. It's snappy. It's, we're going to go in there. We're going to do this, and we're going to, and we're going to get a sale, and it's going to happen. And the customer's also thinking in the same kind of way. Yeah, I've got these people in here because I want to buy from these guys. I just want to get the last details sorted out and everything else. Those kind of first meetings are almost like the last meeting, because it's time is money. We're going to get this done, and we're going to sign this contract, and so forth. When I was working in the Middle East, I would spend days and days and days having these kind of endless meandery, chatty kind of meetings and long meals, non-alcoholic because it was Middle East, but long meals, just meeting with people, meeting with their friends. They'd invite somebody else from another company in, and we'd have chats, and we'd all be sitting back and all kind of relaxed, and it would be an incredibly slow process. And I had an American colleague, and it was driving him up the wall because this was taking so long. And I've got business to do, I've got deals to do, I've got to fly out, and I've got to get this done. I need to sign this contract. I said, no, you've got to slow. You've got to build that relationship. You've got to have this relationship with the customer, and the customer needs to trust you. And it takes weeks for them to trust you. And once they trust you, then they'll do business with you. But if you try and go straight in with the hard, then they'll think, oh, I don't like these people. These people aren't my kind of people, and I'm not going to do business with them. And it doesn't always apply the same way in kind of marketing and what we're doing. But, sometimes with things which are long, considered sales, where people are doing a lot of research, where people are looking to invest in time and money with you over an extended period of time, then they want to have that relationship. They want to have that level of trust, because they don't want to go through this pain many, many times. If you're buying reams of A4 paper, then frankly, you don't need a relationship with somebody selling you reams of A4 paper. If someone is going to be advising your business over a very long period of time on intellectual property rights and trademark law and so on, you don't want to change your company on a regular basis. You want to kind of build that relationship. You want to build that kind of trust with that company. And then you'll stay with that company for a very long time, because the friction of moving out and finding somebody else is so high. The costs are so high to change and so on, that you don't want to do that. So you want to make the right decision once, rather than just snappy decisions. Because if I buy reams of paper and I can suddenly discover that reams of paper 10% cheaper elsewhere, then I'll switch to 10% cheaper elsewhere, because I've got no investment in that relationship. Both of you in the business to business world, they've got a lot bigger investment in that relationship. So building that relationship is absolutely crucial. Does that make sense? Am I talking kind of rubbish here, or?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, good. I like to get the occasional nod, even if it's a verbal nod, just to make sure I'm not actually talking complete rubbish and just talking to myself, and you're actually off there playing games on another screen. So we have this mixture, and this is really important for us to understand the kind of research when we're doing our custom researching personas, because what we're looking to do here is to understand the customer, who the customer is, what do they want, what do they need, do they know that they need. We need to listen to the customer, and we need to see what they're doing. And when I first started in sales, and crikey, I was in sales in mid-90s through to mid-2000s. I held a 7-figure sales target, so I was quite good at sales. When I first started in sales, I was advised by a guy who was an ex-IBM salesperson, and he basically said, customers have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that proportion. So you should be looking, watching what those people are doing, watching what their problems are, seeing how they're working and so forth. Listen to their problems. So if they're, reports on what's going on in the industry and so forth, finding out about them, absorbing huge amounts of information. And then, and only then, can you do the marketing out to those people. Because when you're then doing the marketing out, you know who they are, what they need, how to talk to them, what routes to talk to them through. And your marketing is therefore much more successful because you're not just talking. I've just been spending the last 45 minutes just talking, but this is a special case. But it's that kind of issue when you're doing your marketing. You need to be able to look and listen and then do your speaking. So it's really, really crucial. And this is where we're collecting all this information. And we have large amounts of data. So, we have data, and Loretta, you said you've got data in your CRM system about your existing customers and so forth. So you know a lot about your existing customers. You could argue that some of that, in terms of marketing sense, is actually secondary data now, because that is who they are already, and it's not collected to find out more about them. So it's not like survey data, which is got a specific purpose for marketing information. And we do have a lot of GDPR issues with this information which is collected, particularly if you're in a customer services environment. So if you've got a customer service database and you've got people calling in on a customer service database, information which you collect in that, you can't then say, oh, we noticed you had a problem with X machine. Do you realize there's a different machine that you can replace that with? That is no longer allowed. It used to be allowed, it's no longer allowed. What you can do is you can anonymize that information to say, in general, people who've got these machines want to switch to that machine, or this software, move to that software, or in general, people in this industry are looking to have problems and therefore need a solution in this area. And you can use it in a slightly more generic sense, but you have to anonymize that data and actually strip out that personally identified information. Both of you, I presume, have been on GDPR courses.
Yes, we still have training at work.
Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare. Basically our GDPR compliance officer, the answer is no. Now, what's the question? Tends to be her response to everything, every marketing initiative we come up with.
Yeah, recently to sort of get over that, for our sort of nurture emails that we do from Eloqua, we can only send one email per week, for like legitimate interest contacts, just so that we don't, because we get them from syndication or whatever we've been doing, and we don't want to be bombarding them with emails and stuff. So that's legal. Have just said, look, you can only send them one email a week, and that's
yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, it's not necessarily the frequency. It's this, because we talked about personalization last week. This 8th P of personalization, and the 8th P of personalization is uniquely digital because we have all this information. We have all this wonderful, oceans worth of information that we can talk about to people. Well, you then get to the point of this digital stalking, which is taking it too far, and this is where the whole GDPR issues come into play. I had an example of this in our house itself. Our daughter's home at the moment, and my wife was looking for a new pair of jeans and she sent this concept of balloon jeans. I've never heard of this before, and she sort of said, "What the hell are these? They look like some kind of weird harem pant made out of denim, where the ankle was really tight and they kind of ballooned out as if someone had actually inflated it." It's just look ridiculous, but she showed me these pictures of these things, and then the next morning, my daughter got emails from the same shop with these jeans in them, which was just freaky because, why would that? There are just too many coincidences going on like this, and this is where it's kind of we have this information that we've collected for some other reason, and this GDPR thing and digital stalking is a big issue that we all have. And you know, this information is what people have done, what people are have done previously, and this almost confirmation bias going on in here. These are our existing customers, therefore these are truly representative of everybody, and therefore, you know, the marketing we did for these people, which was massively successful, we just do more of it and we'll get more people. And the issue there, of course, is that you may have actually kind of almost mined that seam dry of those kinds of customers. You may need to look at different kinds of customers, because, you know, it literally, if you're mining and you're sort of like digging out the gold from this gold mine, and you then sort of say, hey, we're getting great amounts of gold out here. If we dig this hole elsewhere, then we'll get the same amount of gold. I mean, no, not really, because the ground is different, and in the marketing sense, the territory of different customer bases may have different information in them, and so you may kind of try and do the same thing more times and not get such good results, because you've already got all of the good results out of that marketing. So you may need to look at different things to do. And you also need to look at the relevance of this information. This information could be quite old. This information could be you know, very, very skewed in the way it's been working. So we actually want to then collect actual primary data. So, you know, we need to actually get this information. And the difficulty with primary data, the biggest difficulty with primary data is it's bloody expensive, excuse my French, bloody expensive to collect. You know, filling in getting surveys out there and so forth. You know, we had one part of our organisation said, oh, we're going to survey the needs of universities across Europe for cloud services. And I think there's like 180 odd questions in this survey. And I went, oh, no one is going to fill in a 180 question survey. It doesn't matter, particularly if you're not paying them to do it. They're just not going to do it. So there can be some issues there as well. And this confirmation bias exists in here, in that we can actually ask leading questions, ask questions that we think we need to know, and actually getting answers back which reinforce our preconceptions. And it's very, very important. We don't just reinforce our preconceptions, because if you do that, then you've just wasted money. There's just no point in it at all. I've just signed up, actually, interestingly, for to YouGov, and they send me a bunch of little surveys every week, for which I get paid, I think, 10p or 15p each. So it's not going to make me a fortune. I'm not going to retire in any way, shape, or form. And it's really fascinating that, you know, people are willing to pay YouGov for this kind of information from a self-selected group of people. And this is where you get this skew issue coming up, because I have signed up for this. I've said, yeah, I'm willing to answer all these questions in return for some cash. I am not necessarily representative of the entire population. Have either of you seen these pop-ups which say, we'd like to take 5 minutes of your time to review this website, or similar to that?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Or product, that kind of thing.
Yeah, product as well. I mean, have you ever done that?
Yeah, sometimes.
One of the interesting
Sometimes,
things, one of the interesting things, if you go to something like the Royal Mail website, which we used to use a lot for, because we used to get postcode checking, and use the Royal Mail website for postcode checking and things like this, we'd end up with this pop-up coming up very, very regularly. And the difficulty with a lot of that stuff is that, you know, you would only fill in a feedback survey like that, or if you absolutely loved the site and it was the best site in the world and you could never think of a better site than this site, or you absolutely hated it. And it's the same with kind of eBay, when you used to give reviews for products on eBay and stuff like this, you know, giving feedback. You said, well, it was brilliant, it was the most wonderful thing possible, you know, 5 stars, or nope, wrong size, whatever, it was rubbish, it just turned up late, it was stank of cigarette smoke when they told me it wasn't cigarette. No one was smoking, etc. 0 stars. You'd end up with this skew of this polarization of the responses, that you'd have loads and loads of 5s and loads of 1s and nothing in the middle, because basically everybody in the middle went, it was what I ordered, it arrived, it wasn't broken, I haven't got time to fill in the form for that, so I'm not going to bother. So you can quite often get this kind of polarization. You see this quite a lot on a lot of these product review sites. You'll see a lot of the 5 stars, and you'll see a lot of 1 stars, and the ones in the middle, are relatively rare.
That's where the small business thing comes in, though, because I mean, the one place that I don't think I've ever not reviewed a product that I've bought is on Etsy. But that's because I know it is a small business, and I usually really love the product, and if I don't and there's something wrong with it, then they're usually pretty good at sort of either refunding or whatever. So yeah, pretty much it's the only thing that I will definitely leave a review for.
Absolutely, and in that respect, Etsy is very like the eBay of 15 years ago. In that it was mainly individuals like me and my wife selling tiny things on there and so forth, and wanting to get those feedback numbers up and so forth to really kind of give people trust in our business, because we were anonymous, and so forth. And you really want to kind of support those people. You wouldn't necessarily do it on Amazon these days, because Amazon don't need our support. Amazon don't need our reviews. Amazon,
they lie about their reviews, don't they?
Oh, I know.
Program about it. They use like other reviews for other products. I used to look at the reviews and oh, that's good. But then when I watched this program, I then properly looked at the reviews and started going through and I realized how many of the products weren't actually that product that was meant to be the review. It's horrible.
Absolutely.
It's sneaky, isn't it?
They're very sneaky. And of course, the same thing happens with things like Trustpilot and TripAdvisor and so forth. You can end up with some really weird stuff going on there, because people the really nasty end of the marketplace. If you don't give me a 50% discount, I'm going to give you a 1-star stinking review on TripAdvisor. I really feel sorry for businesses which are kind of facing that kind of issue, because if we're going to have troubles as it is without some git coming along and trying to blackmail them, and it's just not very good. But this skew thing can be quite interesting within surveys, within feedback forms, and so forth. And particularly if you've got small sample sizes, because 1 or 2 5 stars or 1 stars can really spin your average out, and so you need to be very, very careful about that. And this confirmation bias thing is a really, really big issue to have in there. So we have lots and lots of information. We have qualitative and quantitative. This is just a summary slide of the information. So quantitative is the numbers, it's the facts, it's the market shares, it's the revenues, it's the profit margins, etc., etc., etc. The qualitative is the opinions, feelings, attitudes. If you're looking at social media stuff, there's some really interesting stuff. Do either of you remember the 2010 general election?
Yes.
Yes, excellent.
Not that well. I'm a bit young.
That's fine. It just shows my age. Never mind. 2010 general election. The first one where they had leadership debates. And the first one where they had leadership debates and Twitter existed. So it's really kind of really interesting combination of those two things happening. And in the very first of the leadership debates, it was David Cameron, it was Gordon Brown, and it was Nick Clegg. And what Gordon Brown and David Cameron thought was that Nick Clegg was just, oh, isn't it sweet? We brought the little one in. Oh, he's like his first day in the office, and he's all shiny, and he's got his new suit, and he's got his polished shoes, and he's got nothing in his briefcase. Oh, it's cute having him here. And they kind of played along to this, and they did a lot of, and when he would say something about, something like, oh, I agree with Nick. Yeah, I agree with Nick. Great. And the hashtag I agree with Nick became trending on Twitter. because everyone was watching this on the TV, and they had their phones, and they go, oh, yeah, I agree with Nick, and this kind of stuff. And it was all very matey. And Nick Clegg got this kind of, oh, I'm in the middle. All my ideas are good because both of these guys agree with me. If you want something in the middle of the road, then we are a person which is not either extreme. Not that we have extremes really, or didn't have back in those days. And so on the first one, the sentiment around Nick Clegg was really very high, and the Liberal Democrats was really, very high. There's really a lot of positive sentiment going on in there. And obviously, the analysis from both Labour and the Tories was that, hey, hang on a minute, we've given him a bit of a free ride, and we've actually given him a bit of a boost because we can look at this soft sentiment going on in these in Twitter. And so the second one, which was a week later, it was very clear that they were both much more aggressively attacking his opinions. And this had come about because they had done this sentiment analysis, these attitudes, these feelings, and these opinions based on the feedback they were getting through social media. And it was really, really, this immediacy was just amazing. It was like within a week. Whereas before, if they tried to get this information, it would cost them an absolute fortune. They'd have had to have YouGov or whatever, phoning up 3,000 people and getting all these kind of complicated questions and everything else. They got this virtually for free through social media. So it was a fantastic source of this qualitative information about attitudes and feelings. So, and then one of the things which is really,
as well, wasn't it?
Sorry?
I mean, I remember watching it. I was studying politics at the time, and
oh, right, cool.
I can remember, I was quite, obviously at the time I was quite interested in it because of the subject I was studying. But yeah, I do remember. I can remember sort of comments about it, being more about personality.
Yeah.
And Nick Clegg, out of all of them, is probably the best looking, and in personality, the way he comes across was a bit softer. Sort of he was more middle of the road, wasn't he? In terms,
he was, yeah.
Presented himself. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's very interesting.
It was very interesting, and I mean, because Gordon Brown had a Scottish accent. He was kind of a little bit kind of rougher around the edges. He wasn't actually. He's a very well educated, really intelligent guy. He's not. But because of the accent, he came across as slightly more aggressive because of the Scottish accent. Glaswegian, which he is, male accent can be seen as quite aggressive. David Cameron is all polished and shiny and Etonian and is a bit posh. Nick Clegg, yeah, he's the kind of bloke you probably wouldn't go down the pub with him, but you might have him around for dinner parties and that kind of stuff. So safe guy. You had a younger sister, you probably wouldn't object to her going out with him, that kind of guy. So, he had that kind of thing. And after the first set of debates, he was riding very high. And in the second one, they crushed him because they'd seen this qualitative information from social media, this sentiment analysis. And social media can be
really... Did it?
Yeah.
It didn't lurk.
No.
They still managed to get that was the year they had the hung parliament, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yes, absolutely, in the coalition. And Nick Clegg sold his soul for the ability to hand out biscuits at the cabinet meetings.
He did.
And the Liberal Democrats have been dead ever since. Politics is a nasty old place. Let's not go any further in politics. It's
no.
Not to talk about. But social media can be really, really interesting. Because you can use social media in 3 different ways. And we can talk about this analytical stuff, this sentiment analysis, this customer feedback, opinions, and so forth. And you can get it about your customers as well and your competitors. You can find out, if you're, obviously you guys aren't in the brand world, but if you're selling vacuum cleaners and you're doing sentiment analysis about the word Dyson at the moment, you're probably thinking, hey, we've got some real good opportunities in the UK because everybody hates Dyson for a variety of reasons, but everybody seems to hate him at the moment. And so you can actually use this information about your competitors in this analytical way. And you can, the sentiment analysis, which they used in the 2010 elections and 2012 elections in the US as well, was really, really valuable, because you can find these views and opinions. You don't have to do any responding on it. You don't have to actually kind of answer people's questions and queries on there. You don't have to do all of that kind of active stuff there. Just listening is absolutely crucial in that area. What you can also then do is you can get a lot of active monitoring. So, I do a little bit of this at the moment with an account I use, which is for Eduroam, where I can actually get information from these guys, and actually, if they're sort of saying, "Oh, Eduroam's rubbish in my university," I can actually respond to them and say, "Really terribly sorry. Try contacting your local university, doing troubleshooting and stuff like this, and putting a voice behind the piece." I'm lucky in that Eduroam is not massively actively marketed online, so I can do it as a kind of half an hour a day kind of thing. But this can be really, really manpower intensive, and really should only be used if you do have the manpower and you do have the training within your organization to do this. A lot of organizations used to do a lot of customer support online, and this responsive marketing. BT used to have a BT Care Twitter account. I think it's been stopped now. A lot of the banks do this. NatWest have got NatWest Help, I think it's called, online. And there's big issues with that, because what you're doing two things. You've got your normal customer support people who are sitting at banks of phones waiting to get this information, having access to customer data and so forth, and doing all of the checks and everything else. Then expecting them to do online support through social media can be really, really difficult, because they haven't really been trained in this stuff. They can't share the same kinds of information. At one point, Lloyd's were doing this, and they actually would reply to people saying, "Oh, if you send me your username, your password, and not your password, your sort code and your account number, I can check it out for you." And they're actually asking people to put their sort codes and account numbers into replies on Twitter, which is a bad idea. So they stopped doing that very quickly after people like me reminded them that was not actually a very good idea, because everyone can see that stuff. And there's big issues in that area. And it's this, there's two issues. There's this issue of customer privacy and data protection, because you're using a public area. And the thing that you have, the problem is that you've got the support teams who are not trained as marketing people. So they don't know the right words, the right terminology to use to give positive messages across, to do the spin element of marketing. And if they're talking to an individual, they go, "Oh, yeah, it's rubbish. That kind of thing is rubbish. Those set-top boxes, absolute crap. You don't really want one of those." They can kind of get the message across to an individual on the phone about this. They can't put that stuff in social media because people will see it. It's in the real world. So be very, very difficult and very, very tricky. So, but this analytical stuff is really, really important, and it helps us when we're building our little personas. And we've talked a lot about this already today, so I'm not going to over-egg this. But basically, the difference between the persona and segment is behavior. What we're looking here is to understand not just who they are, but what they do and how they do it. To really give us insights into our marketing. There's some buzz phrases here, which is really kind of important. Weber graphics is a word that the CIM like to use. Very rarely anybody else uses it. A lot of demographics. This is the kind of, who they are, how old they are, how much money they've got, those kind of things. And the psychographics. This is the behavioral stuff. And this is where people like Facebook, in particular, Facebook can actually understand so much psychographics about their customers, and they have got literally billions of customers, that it is really, really scary, to almost like the kind of Minority Report level of scary predictiveness that they can have within what they're doing and how they're doing it and so forth. This behavioral stuff that they find out about us, and this has got with little Alexa in the corner there, and with Google home devices and Siri listening in on us and all these kind of things. It is absolutely frightening what they can do with us. putting all these things together can give you a really good picture of the customers. And particularly in your types of customers, in the business to business world in particular, this is really, really crucial, this understanding of the types of customers we have. But in general, we are all like this. Basically, the internet has given us, digital activities have given us much more awareness and much more power in the relationship. The power shift has changed quite dramatically in a lot of things. For example, buying a car. I spoke about this last week. But buying a car, if you're looking at a particular kind of model of car and make and model of car, previously you'd go to the local dealership and they'd say, this is how much it is. And you had no way of telling whether that was a good price or a bad price or whatever in reality. Now you can go online and you can say, oh, there's one in Huddersfield, which is £1,000 cheaper. Or I can find another one over, or there's a leasing company which will offer me a similar lease deal at £50 a month less, and stuff like this. We can find this information out so much more easily. The power shift there in the customer and seller relationship has switched quite dramatically towards the customer. We are all much more demanding. If we don't get it the next day, then we're going, ooh, why is it taking us 3 weeks to get to me? You know what, 28 days for delivery? You've got to be kidding me. We are very much more demanding in that. We want it and we want it now. It is absolutely what we do. TLDR, really both of you know what TLDR stands for, yes?
You might have to remind me. Sorry.
Too long, didn't read. So you'll see TLDR. You'll see if you're on sort of like something like Reddit or whatever, someone will give a huge, great, long, discursive story about something like that, and they'll put a TLDR at the bottom. TLDR, guy was a git, I got him back, kind of thing. And we're all like this. Our attention spans are minuscule now. They are tiny. Before on YouTube, you could have like 5-10 minute videos for a product or service or case study. Now we're looking at 2 minutes, 90 seconds, 45 seconds. We used to have a video about Edurome, which was 3.5 minutes long. We released a new one last year, 45 seconds. We had to get it down to 45 seconds because TLDR, people just couldn't wait. And we all do it on YouTube. You know, we skip through, fast forwarding 10 seconds through virtually everything. We do it, don't we? Yeah. 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 It's double press, double right. Yeah. You chat. Get me to the action. Get me to the action bit, and you do it all of the time for everything. And that pause, the waiting advert, program will continue in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are counting those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s, and you are skip it as soon as you possibly can. It's what we are like. So long white papers, long articles. We're now looking at 250 words rather than 500 words or 1,000 words. We used to do 1,000-word articles. We're now at 250-word articles. Twitter is, 140 characters, 280 characters was kind of like, oh my goodness, how would I get everything down into that 140 characters? I love the 140 characters, getting everything down into those characters. And Loretta, politics, Boris Johnson, if he cannot get it down into a 2-word snappy thing, he doesn't care. It's just beyond him, The whole climate change thing. Oh, we're not bunny huggers. A, what? And B, he had to get it down to that, And it's like his whole thing on Prime Minister's questions. Oh, Captain Hindsight has strikes again, because he needs those snappy things. And he knows that the average man in the street loves the two words, the 2 or 3 word snappiness, because we don't have time to read a full-page Spectator article on a particular political topic. We want them it now, and we want it straight away. We want it, and we want it now, because we are all butterflies. And over the last year, we have become even more butterflies. Both of you, I'm sure, have noticed that your attention spans are just shot to pieces this last year.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And I'm amazed that both of you are still awake after an hour.
It doesn't help with these new platforms like, TikTok, which are just all designed, it's so clever. It's all designed to be, 10 seconds long, and that is it. And that's as long, if it's longer, you'll stop watching.
Exactly.
No, I don't have TikTok.
I don't have TikTok, but it comes onto my Instagram, and that's bad enough.
That's true. It does. I do like Instagram.
Yeah, I get stuck on reels and I'll be watching them for ages, and I realize that even though each one is really short, I would have spent, X amount of time.
Yeah, I just tend to find I just looked at my phone yesterday and it came up with like the amount of time I spent on Instagram, and I realized that's just watching somebody like decorate a cake. I was like, that's really bad.
Yeah,
I spend my time doing.
Yeah, I feel you.
It's the same, and I mean, both of you presumably have got like your two screen operations like I've got here. I've got a laptop and then I've got a side screen. Yeah, we've both got that at home.
I don't actually.
I do.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Loretta, I would say if you've never.
I do when I'm in the office, but not at home. Yeah.
Yeah, but you note when you're with the two screens, you think, oh, fantastic. Productivity is massively high because I've got the things I can cut and paste, I can shuffle stuff across screens and everything else. It's great. Be honest, how many times do you have a YouTube video running in one corner or an Instagram thing going on in one corner, and whilst you're pretending to work on the other screen now? Or at home, doing a lot of work from home.
I try not to. I actually really do try not to, because otherwise, you just get so distracted.
Yeah, I have to put my phone away.
I put it in a drawer sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. Upstairs, so I'm like, it's not even near me. It's not even like I'm going to go and get myself like a coffee.
I would hate to be a natural student at university or doing A levels right now. It must just be awful not being in lessons and being at home and stuff. It just must be horrible.
Yeah, my daughter has got her preliminary exams, her first year exams are tomorrow, Wednesday and Monday, because they work on bank holidays. And she's got 3 6-hour-long exams.
Oh gosh,
12 till 6 tomorrow, 12 till 6
mean.
on Wednesday, and 12 till 6 on Monday. So how she's going to focus with that, I don't know, because
that's just ridiculous though.
They're
not going to perform as well as they can.
Well, yeah, I think because they're open book, and so they're assuming a different structure and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But, she's having to do them from home online, so it's not going to be. But we are butterflies, we have multiple screens. No one sits and watches a program, and you've got your phone next to you, and you're itching to pick up your phone, and especially when it's buzzing or you've got your smartwatch and it's vibrating and checking all this kind of stuff. We do it all the time, and everyone says, oh, it's multitasking, multi-screening, but now it's just getting to the point where we just have no attention span. There's actually a really interesting article which I will find and I will share again on Slack later about this, how that our attention spans over the last 12 months have just been trashed. We just are just useless now. It's just terrible. But we were getting that way anyway. I think this has just accelerated this similar thing that we've been going on. And like I've got my tablet next to me. I've got a cover on it, so I can't see the notifications popping up on it. I had Slack in my office. The difficulty I have Slack in my office is it's got the sounds come through here when a direct message comes through. So I have all the earphones in all the time, and there's a ping on that, and I click onto another screen, and I get distracted on that, and I have to go back to this, and it's just awful. They are just like this. And of course, we talked about Instagram and YouTube and stuff like this, and there's some really, really fascinating stuff going on here. According to Google, YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Have you've both used YouTube for this? I mean, cake decorating or whatever it was on Instagram and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And get anything on YouTube.
Yeah, but I have to say it's interesting. We had this conversation actually, my husband and I, because he plays guitar, and there's like a couple of people like that he sort of follows on YouTube, and there was like this like this group, like social site that I hadn't heard of, where people kind of like connected. And I said to my, I said, I feel really like out of like touch with the sort of with that side of things, because I said I don't really, if I go onto YouTube, it tends to be for things like you know, things like yoga and stuff like that. So I've got like loads of stuff saved in that, but not from a sort of social element, which is, yeah. Have you, I don't know whether you've sort of come across that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of social media influencers who are on YouTube and who have got some really interesting stuff. I mean, and Matt, tell your husband there's a fantastic video on YouTube where Trevor Horn is playing, is jamming Two Tribes. Frankie Goes to Hollywood,
Okay.
Two Tribes. The way he plays the bass on that, if your husband's into guitar, he will just absolutely love that.
Yeah, he likes his bass as well, actually.
Yeah,
And yeah,
Trevor Horn, Two Tribes. Put it into YouTube. And basically they have this jam session and they just play Two Tribes live, you know, just in four of them in the studio. And you're just thinking, God, that's just incredible. So yeah.
yeah, they had this little girl on as well, actually. I can't remember her name, but she was you know, she was playing the drums and she was amazing. And you're like, kids are great. Like, they've got so much talent and it's all going on YouTube.
Absolutely. It is indeed, absolutely. Sorry, I just got the wrong screen going now. Hang on, because I was going to go to that. Let's go back to that. Yeah, so that's the YouTube second big. So you got my screen back again now. Sorry, I was just trying to find it, but I'll not do that now. Yeah. But YouTube is amazing for this kind of stuff. The stuff which is going on there is just absolutely phenomenal, and it can be anything from you know, cake decorating to fitness videos. My wife usually finds fitness videos on there to do her sessions and stuff like this, it is quite amazing what is going on in there, and the amount of time and the amount of my tablet and my phone tell me how many hours, like yours does on Instagram, and how many hours and how many gigabytes of data I'm downloading from YouTube, and it's just frightening. But it can be a fantastic model for a lot of marketing activities because of this use that people are having with it. So we put all of our functional videos for our services and software onto YouTube. We've created our own YouTube channel, which is free to do, dead easy to do. You create it and you put playlists on there for different services and different things like this. And people will find that stuff. And also you can embed it in your website, and you can embed it in your social media, and so on and so on and so on, to really drive that awareness, because people will go on to Google, which will also obviously search and index YouTube and find information about things, and they will watch the information about this. A lot of DIY channels do this, a lot of DIY stores do this, you know, how to fix a radiator, how to build a patio, all that kind of stuff. But there's loads and loads and loads of interesting stuff going on out there where people are using it to really build their reputations. And video case studies are huge, because this whole too long didn't read, this butterfly nature that we are, people won't read a 2-page case study from a company, but they'll watch a 5-minute talking heads video from, you know, big boss of big company saying, hey, wow, because we did X, we saved loads and loads of money. And of course, as I said before, these guys have got egos the size of planets. And so you can go, oh, Mr. Customer, you are so wonderful. You're so marvelous. You made such brilliant decisions. Would you really mind doing a 5-minute video to explain to the world how clever you are? And they'll go, yeah, absolutely. I want to be a YouTube star. I'm going to show my face on YouTube and tell people how clever I was to choose this particular service or this particular feature or this particular product or whatever. They do that because, you know, they are just 100% ego when it comes to being a CEO or so forth. Really, really good to do those kind of case studies. And you can then reuse this create once, publish everywhere approach that we talked about before, can then use them on all your other channels, through LinkedIn, through social media, through, you know, Twitter, through Facebook, through all of those kind of channels. You can just keep on pumping them out continuously, reuse them and reuse them. Really, really cost-effective way of doing things. And of course, in the business-to-business world, everybody's a me second. Everybody is, oh, I don't want anybody else I don't want to be the first person. I don't want to be blazing a trail and being on the bleeding edge of technology or the bleeding edge of new business, so forth. So referrals, advocacy is crucial. I mean, here I've shown a business to consumer kind of advocacy, but in the business to business world, advocacy and referrals are still incredibly valuable, because people will trust their peers more than they will trust us marketing people, because we're just marketing people. We would say that, wouldn't we? We're paid to say it's brilliant. Their peers are not paid to say it's brilliant. They're not paid to say it saved them money or whatever. So this peer pressure, this peer reviewing, this peer advocacy can be incredibly valuable to get over that initial fear, uncertainty, and doubt of accepting a new service or a new product or a new technology or whatever it happens to be. Back in the day, my first degree was in mechanical engineering, and one of the things I studied was the study of tribology. Now, I'm guessing that neither of you know what tribology. I'll get you a bonus point if you know what tribology stands for.
I don't.
No.
Nope.
No, tribology is the study of lubrication. Why it's called tribology, I have no idea. And in tribology, we have obviously friction. We all know about friction, but there's a concept of stiction. And stiction is the thing you experience when you're trying to push a dining table across a room. At the beginning, you have to push really, really hard to get it moving. And once it's moving, there's a lot less pressure behind it. So you need to push less hard to keep it moving. That first bit to get it moving is really, really hard. And that's called stiction. And this can be seen in marketing as well. When you're looking at new services, new products, new whatever is new, there's a lot of resistance to get it going. And peer referral and peer advocacy can really help them reduce that stiction from marketing. So it can be really, really, really important and really valuable to try that out. So a cool concept to think about is this stiction and this referrals and advocacy, particularly if you're looking at new products, new services to existing customers, or getting into new marketplaces, new market development, and so forth. And briefly, we talked about create once, publish everywhere. And this is where you can basically create a blog post one place, and then it will go out in the weekly newsletter, it will go out in your social media, it will go through your website, it will go through all of these other channels, all these other things simultaneously, where you can automate your emails to customers to say, thank you very much for buying this service. Could you give us a feedback thing? Or, we noticed you filled in half filled in a basket. Do you want to come back? Kind of emails. We all get those. They annoy the hell out of all of us. They are quite successful. We did find fairly good positive responses from those. But the automation of these things so that we can actually kind of reduce the manual processes of having to rewrite things when we're putting it into a newsletter, rewrite it when we're putting it through a different medium, someone actually going through and checking all of the uncompleted baskets and sending out personal emails to everybody. All that stuff can be automated. The difficulty that we have with this is that it can actually depersonalize it, because it's just obvious that you're sending out to everybody. It can also really just annoy somebody. There's this kind of level of rejection curve. You all know about half-life of radioactive decay. Yeah. Yep. And every period the radioactivity halves. Yeah. In terms of automation, in terms of these repeat messages, in terms of all of this kind of stuff, there is also a half-life within the responses from customers. So first time when you say, oh, you haven't completed your basket, and they go, oh yeah, actually there'll be a set percentage of people who will respond, 5-10%. Second time round, half of that number will then respond. So you might get 5% of the first one, 2.5% will reply on the second one. Third one, you're down at 1%. Fourth one, virtually nobody. And this half-life really works really well. So automation, bringing stuff together faster, doesn't always work. It's not always better in that respect. So when you're looking at this automation type stuff, when you're looking at this kind of behavioral stuff, just remember that you would be annoyed if somebody did it to you. So why are you doing it to them? And this can be a really important golden rule to a lot of your marketing, particularly marketing personalization, marketing automation, all of this kind of predictive marketing that we can get away with all this marketing information we have. Would you be happy if someone did it to you? And if you wouldn't be happy having it done to you, why are you doing it to your customers? Because the last thing you want to do is annoy your customers. And we're going to stop there. Has that been of interest?
Yeah, that was really good.
Cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
One day I'll actually write down these scripts because it's all kind of off the cuff. I can assure you, it's kind of quite freaky. But anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Next week is a bank holiday on the Monday, so we'll be on the Tuesday if that's okay for you both.
Yeah.
I actually have a prior commitment on Tuesday evening, so I don't know if I'll be able to make it. But if you can record it, I can catch up.
Well, what I can do is I'll actually put out a doodle poll and check to see whether people want to do it on the Wednesday or something like that. Or we'll just do a 2-hour session on the Monday after or something like that. I'll do a doodle poll and I'll send that out to all 4 people or 3 people or 2 people, whoever wants to respond, and we'll sort it out from there. But
Thank you. That'd be really good.
I will see you when I see you next. Okay, everybody.
So, thanks,
Have a great
Carl.
The videos will be
Thank
up
you.
hopefully tomorrow morning, and you've already got the slides anyway. So see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice
Take care, Bo.
weekend.
Bye.